5 months ago, the channel called ABST-1 began uploading some strange videos, so at last, I thought it was time to investigate.
What would you do if you found out right now you were being watched? And no, I'm not talking about some corrupt entity sneaking into your Imagine this. You just got home from school to play Minecraft. You create your new world, but start seeing weird things happening. You wonder where it's coming from. Then, you see it. Standing in front of you is a creature. You don't recognize it, and you barely see. You're playing Minecraft with your good friend Steve. You've been progressing through the world all day, but you feel as though Steve's behavior is a bit strange. Then all of a sudden, you get a text from that same friend.
Hey, you wanna get on Minecraft?
Friend.
CDO Ulam Burger! Beefy sarap! Resto-style burger at home!
Minecraft later?
If I'm not playing with Steve right now, then who are you? 5 months ago, I uploaded a YouTube video discussing about a Minecraft channel that had weird things going on named Simon12. The story is about a kid who documents his journey on trying to beat the game with his friend Angelo. Unbeknownst to Simon, he was never with his friend Angelo, but instead someone who pretended to be him. This someone is Herobrine's brother. If you haven't already, watch the first video to fully understand everything. This is part 2 of Simon12. The video begins with Simon spawning on a pillar in the middle of the void. Although there are random blocks, which I'll get to later, he maneuvers his way down to a crafting table. He then crafts a bed, and then we see what's happening. Simon is stuck in a loop. He can't just leave by jumping into the void because we see that it takes him right back to where he started. Simon is trapped, which is why he uses a bed to try and find another way of killing himself. He heads back down, desperate to find any means of getting out, until we get a message.
He's not a fighter.
Simon then jumps into the void and everything resets until he turns around and we see a sign that says, Simon says goodbye. He ignores it and instead makes himself a chest to store items. When he jumps into the void again, this time he's given a new sign when he respawns that says, Simon says Angelo. Angelo being Simon's best friend, the same person that would pretend to be
So, the drama tuber that ignited this wildfire goes by the name of Cat Liente, otherwise known as Cat. She wasn't always a drama tuber though. What really put her on the map was being an advice tuber, making content centered around advice regarding content creation. As you can see in her TikTok, her username hasn't changed. It's still Cat Liente Stream Advice. Her bio says Twitch Advice, and her most popular, most viral TikToks to this day are stream and content creation advice. Nothing much has changed in her coffee page either. Her bio says Stream Advice TikToker and Twitch partner. I am a streaming and content creation educator who focuses on teaching streamers and creatives how to make full-time content creation a reality. If you go to her shop, you can see that there's a lot of things that are on sale, most of them free. Free resources, guides, and hell, even a 3-month coaching package in which she assists you in content creation for 3 whole months. What really put her on the map though were her free resources and especially her guides. She had really made her mark in the year of 2022, and this right here is an example. This is a free sponsorship guide that breaks down the types of sponsorships, what to expect from them, how to negotiate, etc., all for free. Something that can tremendously help an up-and-coming content creator without an agency. At the time, this is really what she was known for. Detailed guides, free resources, and above all, never before seen transparency, right? This right here is an example. She did this for a few months. It's from November 2023, and it's her revealing how much she earned in October with a very detailed breakdown from all the different sources. This, of course, only served to add even more credibility to all the resources, guides, and even coaching that she was offering. She wasn't just making up these things on the fly. She had proof that they were working, and people loved it. This right here is a screen cap of her YouTube channel back in May of 2023. And as you can see, her YouTube channel followed the same path as her Twitch, TikTok, and Coffee, making content centered around advice, streaming equipment, and even editing. But of course, seeing that we're now here in 2025 talking about a drama tuber, there would come a time when her content would take a huge turn. It all started in mid-2024 when she would make the video titled "This VTuber Was Scammed," in which a VTuber paid $650 for a model, but it turned out the artist didn't cut it well enough for it to be rigged. Kat would cover the drama and would see unprecedented success compared to her other videos. She would see an opportunity and would continue uploading VTuber art-related drama, targeting art misunderstandings, AI art, stolen art, traced art. She would cover any art controversy in the VTuber niche. And this is when she would make the full shift from advice tuber to drama tuber. But it wasn't all smooth sailing from here. Kat would find herself in a couple of controversies regarding how she would cover certain drama aspects of the VTuber community. And on January 2025, she would change her channel name from Kat Liente to Kat and Chat, going through some sort of a rebrand. And regarding these controversies, one of them in particular came back to haunt her today. But this was only after she had sparked a wildfire that she was not capable of handling. The making of this video, titled "Mismanagement of Dokibird's PC Auction Led an Artist On for a Year." And as you can tell from the like to dislike ratio, it wasn't really received very positively by the VTuber community. Here's the thing, regardless if you're a VTuber watcher or not, what I want you to understand here is that just at face value, just the thumbnail and the title are already a very big deal without even watching the video. And for you to understand that, we have to briefly talk about Dokibird. Her rise to fame occurred when she was recruited as an English VTuber under the massive Japanese talent corporation Nijisanji. She went by the name of Selen Tatsuki and at the time had built a very loyal audience that truly appreciated how much effort and sacrifice she put into providing them with the best sort of content and merchandise. Among other things, of course, like how she was funny and entertaining, etc. On February 5th, 2024, she was terminated in one of the worst ways possible by her corporation, with the termination still having a community note up to this day. The whole thing was one of the biggest PR disasters in recent history, so much so that Nijisanji's stock price tanked at the time. This inadvertently started the downfall of the entire English branch of this massive multi-billion-dollar corporation. And if you're interested in learning more, then you can check out my playlist on my channel titled The Nijisanji Drama Arc. What you really need to understand in this video though is that part of the disagreements she had with Nijisanji when she worked with them was related to art. She had this habit of depleting her own personal bank account in order to ensure the best quality music video production, art, merchandise for her community. One of the biggest disagreements she had with Nijisanji was funding this music video out of her own pocket because Nijisanji refused to. She ended up paying $15,000 from her own personal bank account in order to get this video funded and made. That's obviously a ridiculous amount of money, and Nijisanji still took this video down. This is a re-upload. Not to mention that while this drama was going on, artists came out to say that Nijisanji had not paid them on projects they had hired them for, instead only receiving money from Dokibird, paying them from her personal bank account. So this is why Kat's video with the title is such a big deal. Whether it be as the corporate VTuber Selen Tatsuki or as the independent VTuber Dokibird, she's always been known to hire the best and compensating them like no one else. Speaking of Dokibird, this used to be her independent persona before joining Nijisanji. When she left that company, she resumed her activities here, and then went on to become one of the biggest independent VTubers on the planet. So claiming that she had led on an artist for a year with the thumbnail claiming minus $6,000 is pretty much claiming that she is two-faced, that the Dokibird that everyone is familiar with is actually not the real Dokibird. This comes at a time where this had already happened barely a couple weeks ago. A very big VTuber was exposed as being two-faced for years, which unfortunately made it probable that maybe this is true, maybe Dokibird actually is two-faced. Hence why the video has over 100,000 views. But why the dislikes? Why is Kat in trouble right now? Why are people turning against her? Well, the video is 1 hour and 48 minutes long. I watched every single second so that you don't have to, and we're gonna go through everything together to truly understand what the hell is going on, starting with the first few seconds. Watch.
This is tea so piping hot, none of you guys have actually heard about it before because it has not been posted anywhere. This is about a big VTuber by the name of Dokibird and a charity stream that Doki had hosted over a year ago.
So right from the start, guys, this tea is piping hot. This is a news story exclusive to Kat that's never been posted anywhere. She has the scoop over the fact that Doki has been leading on an artist for a year in regards to a charity auction. Okay, in her little teaser in the beginning of the video, she's reading off of a Google Doc. Right? Now, I know at this point you probably have Google Doc exhaustion, okay? But there's a very big question here. who wrote it. Most people couldn't stand watching the video for 40 seconds to determine that, and assumed that this entire thing was actually written by the artist who was, quote unquote, led on by Doki for a year. But it's actually not the case at all. Watch.
I made this document, so I want to make sure I'm covering this correctly. Is this real? Unfortunately, it is.
So right off the bat, okay, Kat wrote this document that she's going to read for over an hour and 48 minutes. This is edited. She actually streamed it on her Twitch days before the upload, and it was over 3 hours of reading and talking. She had very briefly published this document before privating it, but as you can see here in activity, it shows that she was the last one to edit it. At the same time, someone actually archived this entire document before she privated it. I'll be leaving the link in the description, but this is 51 pages that Kat herself wrote regarding the entire incident. One can safely assume that the artist involved in the situation reached out to Kat personally and gave her all these screenshots of private DMs that occurred with Doki, her management team, and whoever else. But Kat was the one who summarized them in text. The reason why this is so important is because throughout the document, there will be some interesting takes. One could understand these takes if the artist had written this document themselves, but the fact that Kat wrote them is kinda weird. So for most of this video, she's reading off the Google document that she personally wrote. This means that we can read it together. However, sometimes Kat will give her personal opinion on what's going on. This is when I'll be showing you her takes, and you'll slowly start to understand why this video is currently sitting at 14,000 dislikes. Let's do this. So Kat's document starts off with context. DokiBird hosted an auction that ended March 3rd, 2024 for a custom-built PC designed by the artist, with the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation being the charity of choice for the Tiltify. The PC is valued at $3,500 USD and the winner bidded $6,600 USD. Now you might be wondering, what the hell is a Tiltify? Well, it's actually a really cool platform. You can start a fundraiser and people can donate to it, and when they do, the money goes directly to the charity. It doesn't go to the streamer or the content creator's bank account. This means that you can guarantee any money you're donating isn't going to get scammed. There are many different ways to raise money on the platform. One of them is a charity auction. This is where you have multiple different items that you can bid for, and the highest bidder wins the item. The bid would go to charity, and the person who gave the highest bid would receive the item. So for example, custom mousepad starts at $30. Let's say you bid $100, you win, the $100 gets sent to the charity, and you receive the mousepad. The items on the auction are not controlled by Tiltify though, it's controlled by the person who created the auction, in this case, DokiBird. Now this document has this section titled Proof of Doki stating artists would be paid, attaching a tweet that DokiBird made around 2 weeks before the auction began. The tweet says, "To all artists and creators, I'll be running a charity auction and stream next week, and I'm looking for people who will like to collab and work with me to make one-of-a-kind Doki-themed items, plushies, figures, sculptures, signed work prints, etc. to auction off for charity. I will be paying for your service. Please send your portfolio to dokicanread@gmail.com. The items do not need to be completed before the auction starts, so don't worry about any rush. The auction will specifically go towards the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, which looks at funding research into cures and improving treatment for mental illness globally. There will also be other items in the auction like one-on-one gaming sessions with me, etc." Kat's document then links a clip of DokiBird. Here's what Kat showed in her video.
I am providing the money for shipping for all of these items, so do not worry if you're wherever you live, you're like, oh my god, would they be able to ship it there? I will be providing the money for the shipping to the creators who will be shipping these products to you if you win the auction. And also, even if like some of the items are not made by me, it's not coming from me, I will be sending an exclusive postcard to each winner of the auction.
So this was the clip that was included in Kat's video. The actual link in this document directs me to the entire 9-hour VOD regarding this charity, and the timestamps to begin with are wrong, right? In any case, what she's really trying to drive home here is that Doki is citing a manager that's helping her get access to Tiltify since it was in closed beta, as well as setting up other aspects of the auction. In other words, this manager one at the time was her right-hand man. She then really emphasizes the point that Doki said she'd be paying for shipping for the products, and then says that in this VOD, Doki mentions having a duplicate of each item for herself to twin with the auction winners. The reason why she mentions this is that this information will not be mentioned to the artist in question. Then we get to the private messages between the manager and the artist. The conversation starts off in Discord by the manager on the 27th of February 2024, saying, "Hi there, I'll be providing any updates or comments Doki might have moving forward, and we'll be using a mockup if you choose to provide one by the 2nd of March. Or we can use photos in your portfolio if you aren't, which is totally understandable due to the turnaround time. We don't have a super tight timeline, so keep that in mind. You can take all the time you need on this project, but we would like a general estimate to provide during the auction, and ideally we'd like to get an idea of the price as Doki is planning on paying all the artists she has chosen. If we're able to potentially work something out with Height, we can explore that too. Height is a PC building company that has collaborated with Doki in the past." The artist then says, "Hey, thank you for accepting my request and getting back to me. I'm glad to hear about the timeline. That gives me a lot of reassurance since custom projects always take a lot of time and work to put together. I was already in talks with Height, so I've looped in my contact and I'm waiting to hear back from him at the moment." The manager and the artist then proceed to talk about maybe looping in Height to provide some parts for the PC, and then the artist says, "I've also got a mockup ready if you'd like to see it." To which the manager says, "Yes, please." Now get this. The artist says, "Usually I wouldn't start work on a project or provide a mock-up before agreeing payment terms and stuff, but I trust that we can sort that later. Also, this is just a first idea, so it's totally open to suggestions/comments from you guys or Doki. Here's the concept. It's using the Y70 touch case by Height that has a 4K screen on the corner." And the artist continues by saying, "Just a note, my concept art also never looks like the final product. The final product is usually 10 times better, lol." So even though both are cordial and responding immediately, things are a bit messy from the get-go. The first thing that was provided was a mock-up. No contracts, no agreements, no timelines. Everything was completely up in the air. Nevertheless, the manager continues and says, "We're in talks with the marketing executive producer of iBuyPower in collaboration with the design team at Height. I'll definitely be able to give you a sure answer on whether or not it would be possible to get access to the items for our upcoming project for this, which would be amazing for everyone involved, later today. Also, that looks absolutely amazing. We could not have imagined a better design." The artist then says, "Oh, interesting that iBuyPower are involved. If it's their marketing executive producer, then this is definitely going to be big." To which the manager says, "As far as payment terms go, Doki is 100% going to pay whatever you charge for the PC. Once we have an idea of the final cost, we can finalize everything then." So it seemed that a contract, something in writing, something, real, was going to come once they had an idea of the final cost. But if only things were that simple. Here's what Kat had to say about this. Red flags in the project. The first red flag/issue is that management published the PC concept for the Tiltify auction without confirming a budget with the artist or that the work could be edited. To note, in the Tiltify auction, the design was listed as potentially being subject to change. It said, "Concept art is subject to change and winners will be notified of all necessary changes to the final product." Kat continues and says, "Also to note, the artist told management they were going to be OOO, which means out of office, starting March 1st for another project. And on that day, management messaged asking for edits to be made and listing the item onto Tiltify." So this is when things start to get messy. On the 1st of March, the manager messages the artist and says, "The Y70 Touch Height case that the artist had initially used in their mockup was facing severe supply disruptions. So they wanted to remove the whole touch aspect of it because they could get the case just without the touchscreen." Then the next day, the auction went live. The artist and the manager at this point had not talked about specifics when it came to price. There was no established understanding as to how much the PC would cost or how much the auction starting price should be valued at. So seeing that the artist was out of office, the manager seems to have gone to the PC part picker page of the artist to look at previous work and used the price of that previous work as reference, being 3,500 USD. According to Kat, the artist is based in the UK and the build cost £3,500, not 3,500 USD, which means it was more around 4,300 USD. She then says this price estimate is also extremely confusing. As mentioned previously, Doki had mentioned wanting a duplicate of each item to twin with the auction winner. A second PC is never mentioned to the artist, nor does the 3,500 USD price tag clarify whether that's 3,500 for one PC or 3,500 for the cost of two PCs to be built. Finally, going to PC Part Picker to estimate the build cost for a PC will cause a huge issue down the line, as that is only the quote for the PC's parts with no addition of labor costs. The third issue is management. In the Tiltify auction, it was listed the buyer could choose their own specs. And that is indeed the case. The Tiltify page says this piece is a custom-built Doki-themed PC. Since the PC has not been built yet, you are able to have some control over the creative process and specs of the PC. The PC is valued at 3,500 USD, and the parts in the PC will fall in line with the general PC of that pricing. Example, a previous build of the artist with roughly the same cost, showing the PC Part Picker page. You want to know what's really interesting though? When I go to the PC Part Picker page of that list from that exact PC back in December of 2023, I can see that the total price in USD plus the components from Amazon.co.uk equal around 3,600 USD. We're talking purely parts here with no labor, of course. This was exactly what the manager was intending to do, getting a rough cost of the build itself. Nowhere does this indicate that 3,500 USD would be 3,500 pounds in the UK. This is something that the document never mentions. Just keep that in mind. Kat then says this is an issue as no upfront budget was provided to the artist. On the 4th of March, the manager sends a DM to the artist and says, "Good morning. Just wanted to send a small update. I'll message the winner today to confirm their shipping details and all that good stuff. I'm happy to be the go-between for you both, but if you and the winner are comfortable, I can get you both connected on Discord to streamline things for you guys as far as figuring out specs and stuff. Just let me know and I'll make it happen. Secondly, regarding payment for the PC, I know that's probably up in the air at the moment, so we can stay in contact and figure that out as the project progresses or as we have a more clear idea of the projected cost. I did base the market value off of your previous builds, and we would like to stay around that general cost for the parts themselves, but would like to give the buyer some wiggle room as far as you know. Potentially going for a cheaper CPU cooler option to allow more money to go towards storage/RAM if that's something they'd like to do, but we won't know until we speak to the buyer." A few days later, on the 7th of March, the artist says, "Hey, I've tied up my brand deal from last weekend, so let me catch up with your messages." The document then continues about a brief confusion regarding height. It's not really that relevant, so we won't waste time on it. The next part is about communication issues, in which the artist on the 21st of March is saying, "Hey, thank you so much for your patience with my replies. I've been recovering from an addiction lately, which has been a huge struggle, and I feel that my response time has definitely taken a hit, so I wanted to mention it briefly to provide some additional context and transparency, and also to hold myself accountable. I wasn't 100% sure whether it was relevant or not, but since it's affecting my professional conduct, I felt it was best for you to be informed moving forwards. I hope you can understand." Then the artist says, "That's fantastic, thank you so much, that clears up my worries surrounding that side of things." This is in reply to a message that the manager had left them on the 12th of March. After the clarification about the whole height confusion thing, he said, "And of course, I've made it clear to the winner that you are not going to be involved with any tech support, and that if they have any issues they may experience, they have to go through a third party." So the artist's reply came a week late. And as far as we know, based on these screenshots, there were no other DMs in between this time frame, this entire week. This means that when the manager mentioned how much the PC would cost and the details surrounding it, the artist could have said something about it multiple times. These red flags that Kat had brought up should have been mentioned back then by the artist. In fact, forget about the red flags. So many specifics were still up in the air. And the expectation was that after the auction had ended, the artist would start work on the PC right after. But look at this. After the artist had said that they were dealing with an addiction and that they were holding themselves accountable, they said that they read everything, let's do some cooking on the hardware for this build, and I'll get back to you with a list of possible suggestions. This might take some time while I'm figuring out what works best for the buyer's needs. I noticed that he said that he's going to be in the US until late August. If the PC is completed during this time, would you be happy to have the completed build shipped to your address and then handle shipping to the buyer when they're back in the country? I may need to relocate apartments during the period they're not in the USA, so I would much prefer that. So bear in mind, here we're talking about the possibility of the PC being done in the summer of 2024. Okay, keep that in mind for later. The manager then says, "That's okay, I've been pretty sick as well. I've also been away and not here much. I hope things get better for you. I know how hard it is to quit from my own experiences." He's referring to the addiction that's been blurred out here. Then he continues, "If it comes down to it, we're more than happy to handle the shipment of the PC." Then says, "Sounds good, there's no rush, so take your time and take care of yourself." Overall, a very wholesome conversation, right? Now, a month later, on the 17th of April, there's been zero communication, and I mean zero, as far as we know, on Discord between the artist and the manager. The manager then says, "Hi there. The winner of the auction has requested to establish contact with you to discuss details of the PC himself and to check with you on any updates you may have for him. I did let him know that you were working on getting those parts figured out, but he still requested to make contact. I can send over your Twitter if you're comfortable." No response whatsoever from the artist. Another month fully passes by. We're now 2 months since the last time the artist has said anything, and the manager says, "Hi again, just wanted to give you a heads up. I've chosen to part ways with Doki merch, and anything regarding the auction items will be handed off to my replacement once I leave on the 31st of this month, so the 31st of May. If it's alright with you, I'd love to include your socials in the onboarding document I'm passing along. They will handle everything moving forward, including any updates necessary for Doki and any communication with the auction winner. Please let me know if that's alright, and I'll include your Discord/email for my replacement." Kat says, "As you can see from the screenshot, management changed, and the artist was reached out to by Manager 2 on June 8th asking about the status of the project." So bear in mind, we're now almost 3 months since the last time the artist has even communicated with Doki's team. This is the email from Manager 2 saying, "Hello, this is Ryby. I am the replacement assistant for Manager 1, and I'm following up on the custom PC charity item with regards to its current status. To my knowledge, in the turnover documentation I was given, the item has not been fulfilled yet, and Manager 1 had issues getting updates from you in a timely manner. It has been a few months since the charity auction ended, and we're trying to wrap up all our commitments regarding this project. If you are still open to finishing this commission or have been working on the commission and have an estimated delivery date, please give us an update within 2 to 3 business days. Otherwise, we may have to go to a plan B and either reimburse the winning bidder or find a different custom PC builder. If you cannot fulfill this item, we understand life gets difficult, just let us know and we'll get out of your hair. Sincerely, Ryby, assistant at DokiBird. Kat says, the artist responded June 18th asking for more information but confirming they still wish to fulfill the project if the option is still available. So even though Manager 2 specified please reply in 2 to 3 business days, the artist replied in 10 days. Now, part of the email is hidden, but for the most part, the artist says, hey, listen, to offer the briefest of explanations, I ran into untreated health complications and had to get signed out of work or whatever, and then proceeded to apologize for the delays and any inconvenience that was caused. Then the artist lays out some points, specifying that they communicated with the buyer through email and that the buyer wanted a PC capable of machine learning and that he'd be happy to pay for the additional parts. The artist's initial response was that, yes, I could do that, but I'd have to come up with a brand new spec list, run it by technicians, do the calculations, etc., etc. As much as I'd love to provide that service for the winner, I understand now that I'm not able to handle the extra work and I would much prefer to use the pre-existing specs from my cinnamon roll build, since this is what Manager 1 based the DokiBird PC specs on. Then the artist specified that they were worried that the height case that they wanted to use was discontinued. They couldn't meet demand anymore, so the case with the screen was not available. They thought that since one of the biggest aspects of that PC was a screen with DokiBird on it, that it would maybe look boring. They then said, I was hesitant about Manager 1 asking to connect me to the winner, but perhaps that would be best so I can consult them directly. Dan says, I think that covers everything I needed to communicate about. It's mainly been the fee and the scope that have been overwhelming, but I'm confident I can start work pretty much immediately once those details are sorted and I'm determined to fulfill this. Since I just wrapped up a project with MSI, I can give you a more accurate time frame for the project's completion. I estimate it would take a minimum of 6 weeks to complete the project and roughly 12 weeks at maximum. Alternatively, I understand if you've chosen to go with Plan B or a different PC builder at this stage, especially as your email did say please reply in 2 to 3 days. I can only offer my apologies for the major dropping of the ball. I hope to hear back from you soon, and once again, thank you so much for your patience. All the best, artist. So look, in any industry, if someone tells you reply within 2 to 3 days and you reply 10 days later, I think it's safe to say you're either fired or you lost the job. Not to mention that this was, as far as we know, the first time the artist had even communicated with DokiBird's team since the 21st of March. Let's also not forget that the artist said yes to the buyer's demands and then thought, you know what, I can't do it. I can't do a PC that does machine learning. And we still have no mention about how much it would cost, with the artist not mentioning at all how much they want in compensation, how much it would cost, not talking about the specifics. So look, the whole thing is a mess so far, and things were kind of starting to make sense. Manager 1 should have been more insistent and proactive, but instead was way too laid back and seemed like he didn't really care. Well, that's because he ended up leaving. He already had a foot out the door and probably didn't care as much as he should have. The artist, on the other hand, would just disappear for like way too long. And while health issues suck, it's not enough of a reason to keep your clients in the dark. One simple message, one simple email, and you can let them know so that way they go for a plan B. So what did Kat have to say about this? Well, let's see.
And scope. So yeah, basically the artist offered a couple options. It was like either 1, they would complete the build, they apologize for being late. Option 2, the buyer would be refunded. And option 3, a different builder would be used. January 20.
Oh, cool. The artist apologized for being 2 months late. Let's not even take a second to talk about that. This is going to be a growing trend throughout this video. Anyway, back to the document. Kat continues in the document and says, then, January 2025, DokiBird personally reached out to the artist in Twitter DMs and through their personal website to put the artist, the charity winner, and a member of Doki's staff, which will be the 3rd iteration of the management team who will be in green, into a group chat together. So Manager 2 had been replaced by Manager 3. DokiBird had created a Discord group chat with Manager 3, the artist, herself, and the auction bid winner for the PC. Just so you know, so that you're not confused with the timelines, DokiBird only personally reached out months after that email conversation we just saw. So now we're on January 10th, 2025, 10 months after the charity auction had even begun. So as far as we know, this is how the DMs started, with Doki saying, the winner of the charity auction has been unhappy with the wait and I was pulled in to fix the issue as it has grown bigger than it should be. The next day, the artist says, hey Doki, I haven't had any messages about the charity PC since last summer, so I honestly wasn't sure what was going on. The next day, Doki says, what is your Discord? Is it okay if I add you and the charity winner plus one of my staff to fix this issue? To which the artist said, yes, although I need to go over a few details with your staff before before jumping into a Discord group chat with your team plus the auction winner, my Discord is blank. Let me know your staff's Discord name so I can keep an eye out for them, to which Doki says, okay, his Discord will be blank. And then 13 days later, we can see the artist saying, hi Doki, we really need your personal involvement in the group chat. Kind of giving you a spoiler over the fact that things don't go as smoothly as planned. Kat says, at this point, the artist was confused, as since they had not received a response back from email, they had assumed management was going with plan B, reimbursing the winner or finding another custom PC builder. The artist was reluctant to join a group chat with the charity winner, as at this point the artists themselves still had no idea how much they're getting paid for the project or any other questions answered. They requested to speak privately with the new management/staff member first to sort out payment, budget, and other details so as to not appear unprofessional in front of the client. So here we can see Manager 3 saying, hi artist, I'm Management 3, part of Doki Bird's staff team. I have been working for Doki since August, and before that you had contact with Manager 1, most likely regarding the charity auction. I'm unsure how exactly this came to be and why Doki has to pay this out of her own pocket and the item isn't donated, but this has been before my time. Regardless, this is the item. The PC had a fair market value of 3,500 USD at the time, a year ago, and from what I understand is that the person that asked for the PC also had some additional requests that they were willing to pay for themselves. At the moment, I feel we need to find a solution to what you can deliver for that amount currently, what the auction winner is happy with, and what we can do to remedy the situation. 1-year-old specs can be an issue. I personally think we need to look at the charity item and update it and what it would currently cost for you to fulfill. Then we should get in direct DM contact with the bidder of the auction and verify the specs and tell him this is what we can do for this price. If they seem to want additional specs, then we should, as a team, talk about what that would cost and who would pay for it. So yeah, it's obvious this is a absolute managerial nightmare. If you guys are unemployed or are still in school, this is what it's like to work for a very big company, okay? This is a perfect example. It's constant back and forths with no one understanding what the hell's going on. Manager 3 did start off the conversation aggressively, no doubt frustrated that this has taken so long. But to be fair, one would assume that they had gone with plan B if they hadn't replied in any way, shape, or form to the artist since that last email on June 18th, 2024. There wasn't a single person here who knew what the hell was going on, and Kat continues in the document saying, regarding the underlined statement of I'm unsure why Doki has to pay this out of her own pocket and the item isn't donated, there was an option for artists Doki was working with for the auction to donate their work to be auctioned off for charity. However, Doki, in the previously linked VOD, states that she would cover the pieces artists don't want to donate, nor is there an expectation to donate. The artist then links the tweet we saw initially at the beginning of this document in which Doki says, I will be paying for your service, and then proceeds to say, I'm happy to do a breakdown PDF of what the cost would actually look like for the team if that would be helpful. Kat says, budget conversations begin. Because the PC build was listed as 3,500 USD in the auction, which was not run by the artist but an assumption Manager 1 made, this staff member assumed the build would still cost $3,500. The artist provided a PDF including the cost of parts, additional things the bidder wanted, and their hourly wage, and they priced their build service at the National London Living Wage, undercharging below their standard rate. This is due to lack of transparency with the budget and how the artist felt pressured in being responsible to sort this PC mess out. Now look, to be fair, even though Manager 1 used a previous build as reference for the $3,500 price tag, it was still a mistake and it lacked transparency. But the artist also had 3 months to talk with that manager before they left the company to sort this out and make this breakdown PDF of what the cost would be. To me, everyone is at fault here, but to Kat, this is purely Doki Bird's management team's problem and the artist is innocent. The bias is starting to show. The artist then says, to make sure I have this right, the services are being paid for like Doki originally said, to which the manager said, yes, these would be paid, originally listed as 3,500 USD, I think, sorry if this is the wrong number, I'm backtracking the auction from the limited info I was provided. The artist then posts the PDF of how much everything would cost and says, since the build at the auction was based on one of my previous PCs,